Have you ever wondered what would happen if a first grader became the ruler of the most powerful civilization on Earth? More than 4,000 years ago, a child inherited an empire, and his incredibly long reign saw that empire crumble into dust. This is the story of Pepe II, the boy king, whose time on the throne quietly ended an entire era of Egyptian history. Our story begins around 2281 BCE, in the heart of ancient Egypt's Old Kingdom. This was a time of immense power and prosperity. The pyramids at Giza had already stood for centuries, silent monuments to the might of the pharaohs. Egypt controlled the fertile banks of the Nile, a green ribbon of life surrounded by endless desert. Its trade networks stretched far and wide, bringing gold, incense, and exotic goods from distant lands like Nubia and Punt. Life was stable, the gods were in their heavens, and the pharaoh was their divine representative on earth. But then the unexpected happened. The reigning pharaoh, Pepe I, died. His heir, a young boy also named Pepe, was only 6 years old. Before he could even read or write his own name, he was crowned Pepe II, Neferker, the new ruler of a civilization that had taken centuries to build. Imagine that for a moment. A child, barely old enough for school, suddenly declared a living god, responsible for the fate of millions. Of course, a 6-year-old couldn't actually run a kingdom, so real power fell to his mother, Queen Ankhesenpipi II. She became the regent, the true ruler behind the throne. In ancient art from this time, we see something remarkable. Reliefs and carvings show the queen standing shoulder to shoulder with her young son, equal in height and stature. This was no accident. In the rigid world of Egyptian art, size equaled importance. By depicting herself as the same size as the pharaoh, she was sending a clear, powerful message to the entire kingdom. She was in charge. Under her guidance, Egypt continued to thrive. The state machinery ran smoothly, and the kingdom's strength seemed unshakable. As Pepe II grew from a boy into a young man, he gradually took on more and more royal duties. He officially assumed full power, ruling from the capital city of Memphis. We can still read his royal decrees, meticulously carved into stone stelae that have survived the millennia. These inscriptions tell us that, for a while, it was business as usual. He dispatched military campaigns to protect the borders and sent trade expeditions south into Africa to acquire luxury goods. One of the most fascinating figures from this period was a man named Harkaf. He was a governor and an intrepid explorer who led several journeys deep into what is now Sudan. On one of his trips, he acquired something truly extraordinary, a dancing dwarf, likely a pygmy person from Central Africa. When word reached the palace, the young pharaoh, Pepe II, was ecstatic. We know this because a letter he wrote to Harkaf has survived. It's one of the most personal and humanizing documents from ancient Egypt. In the letter, the boy king instructs Harkaf to take every precaution to ensure the dwarf arrives safely. He wrote, "Come northward to the court immediately. You must bring this dwarf with you, alive, prosperous, and healthy. When he goes down with you into the vessel, appoint excellent people who shall be beside him on each side of the vessel. Take care lest he fall into the water. When he sleeps at night, appoint excellent people who shall sleep beside him. For my majesty desires to see this dwarf more than the products of Sinai or of Punt." This letter gives us a rare glimpse behind the divine mask of the pharaoh, revealing an excited, curious child who just wanted to see a special dancer from a faraway land. It reminds us that beneath the crown and titles, Pepe was still just a kid. For decades, Pepe's reign continued. He celebrated his said festival, a jubilee meant to rejuvenate the king's power, multiple times. Expedition followed expedition. The kingdom seemed stable, eternal, just like the stone pyramids that dotted the landscape. Pepe II just kept on living. He ruled through his 20s, his 40s, his 60s, and into his 80s and 90s. His reign stretched on and on, becoming the longest of any confirmed monarch in all of recorded history. He outlived his children, his grandchildren, and likely even his great-grandchildren. He sat on the throne for an astonishing 94 years. But time, the very thing that gave him his record-breaking reign, became his greatest enemy. While the king grew older and older in his palace at Memphis, the world outside was changing. His long rule created a sense of stagnation. The powerful provincial governors, known as nomarchs, who administered the different regions of Egypt, began to see the pharaoh as a distant, feeble old man. For generations, their families had ruled their own provinces, building up their own wealth and power. They started acting less like royal officials and more like independent princes. They built lavish tombs for themselves in their home territories, not near the king's pyramid. They stopped sending their full share of taxes and resources to the capital. The centralized power that had defined the old kingdom was slowly but surely dissolving. Then, nature itself seemed to turn against the aging king. Towards the end of his reign, the annual Nile floods, the lifeblood of Egypt, began to fail. Year after year, the river didn't rise enough to fertilize the fields. What followed was catastrophic. Widespread crop failures led to severe famine. Skeletons from this period show signs of malnutrition. Ancient texts, known as the Lamentations, describe a world turned upside down. Nobles were starving, the poor were desperate, and society was breaking down. The divine order, which the pharaoh was supposed to maintain, was in chaos. By the time Pepe II finally died, around 2200 BCE, he was nearly 100 years old. The authority of the throne had become hollow. He was a king in name only. The country he left behind was a fractured, impoverished shadow of the empire he had inherited as a boy. Shortly after his death, the Old Kingdom officially collapsed. Egypt splintered into competing regions ruled by local warlords, plunging the nation into a century of civil war and chaos known as the First Intermediate Period. It would take generations for Egypt to be unified again. The story of Pepe II is a powerful and ironic tragedy. He holds the record for the longest reign in history. Yet this incredible longevity was a key factor in his kingdom's downfall. His endless rule led to political stagnation, while environmental disaster delivered the final blow. It serves as a stark reminder from history that power, no matter how absolute, is fragile, and a crown worn for too long can be just as dangerous as one that is lost too soon. What do you think? Could one person's long life really bring down an empire? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe for more stories from the ancient world.